I wiped my eyes a bit. The kitchen itself felt like it was moving beneath my feet, but every second that passed was another second closer to my daughter and her girlfriend coming home. Oh, no need to panic, Winnie. Just stay grounded. With a huff, I turned back to the pile of groceries and took notice of the thin black bottle that Barky had purchased as well. Blood wine. A pause. It was supposed to be a treat for later in the evening, but that didn't mean a sip or two now to calm my nerves wouldn't be acceptable. With a pop, I removed the cork and poured. I swished it within the glass, and after a sniff, took a drink. In just a few seconds, I felt my cheeks getting warm, and a gentle burn was in my throat. Blood may not have been a requirement to live as a vampire bat, but it was certainly a wonderful treat. Oof! Wow! Good stuff, Barky! When he gets home, I'll have to give him a treat of his own. This is high-quality blood. The bottle rattled as it went back down on the counter. I was feeling a good deal more confident now. My eyes turned back to the task at hand. Okay then, so how about the eyeballs? That ice cream scoop should give just about an eyeball in terms of shape and size. But what about the presentation? The peppers and olives could look like an iris and a pupil, but how can I make it all stick together? I guess ginger should work. I applied the ingredients together as best as I could in a general eyeball shape, and stuck a small toothpick through the center to hopefully hold it all in place until it could stand on its own. Still, I was sweating. I'd already lost 5 minutes on just the appetizer. A hand reached for the glass of wine, and quickly let me take another small sip. My shoulders shivered with the gulp, but I pressed on. Oof. Alright, now that that's done, there's the matter of the cauliflower. It's supposed to be the main dish. Tomato sauce will work fine for that. Yes, tomato sauce. Oh, and I should probably still heat it up. Oven has the pie in there, but the microwave should be fine, right? The can of tomato sauce was quickly opened out onto the cauliflower, and with a small spoon, I poured it everywhere I could. The white and red together would hopefully have a brain-like effect once it was done heating up. Into the microwave it went, as I gently cradled the vegetable into its depths, before entering in the thyme and letting it run. I'd been making good progress, but suddenly I felt shaky all over again. I took another slow sip of my little glass of blood wine, and then another, but each one didn't seem to be helping me anymore. I looked back at the bottle, forlorn. Oof. Oh dear, I might have overdone it just a little. Perhaps a couple minutes of rest. Just while the main course finishes itself off. Babe? 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 Babe! My eyes blinked slowly until I woke with a start, my head bumping up against Barktholomew's jaw. We rebounded off of each other with a sharp noise echoing out. Ow! Hold on, honey. Bring it down a notch. Everything's fine. They had plenty of that vegan-friendly cider at the store. A little food coloring and bam! We have some bloody drinks for our under-21 guests. Am I right? My head was still cloudy, but through squinting eyes, I turned about until I could see the clock on the wall. We had little less than 15, perhaps even just 10 minutes until dinner would have to be served. But somehow, despite the urgency of the moment, I dozed off. No, no, no! I can't believe this! All I did was take a sip! How strong is that stuff, Barky? How strong is... Oh, wait. He seemed to have noticed the open bottle of blood wine on the countertop, along with the small glass I'd poured out. The glass was about half empty now, but he picked it up and gave it a sniff. Before downing the rest of it, he turned to me with a small smile. Winnie, you know you're a lightweight. You can't have too much at once or you start getting sleepy. But no worries, we should be all good to go now, right? Beep! Just as he said that, our smoke alarm started beeping over and over, and we both turned to the oven. Inside, it was smoking, and Barky ran forward, popping it open with a hiss, as a billow of haze poured into the kitchen. With a cough, I stumbled over to the windows and started airing out the room, with Barktholomew standing meekly to the side with the offending item on the stove. The crisis had been averted, but the pumpkin pie I'd been making from scratch earlier in the day was no more. Charred, burned to a crisp, completely ruined. I ruined it all. Oh, Barky, I'm so sorry, honey. Hey, it's okay. Look, the eyes and the brain are still good. You did really well with those while I was out. And listen, we don't really need a dessert for Halloween night, right? That's not it. It's just, I feel like a horrible dad. No, honey, no. But it's true. I ruined our daughter's first night back home. I can't cook, I made a huge mess, and I don't even know how you're supposed to make good vegan food. And she was so excited to introduce her fancy new girlfriend to us, and I just made the whole thing fall apart. I felt myself slide down to the floor of the kitchen as tears stung my eyes. I was sniffling, feeling utterly pathetic, but unable to stop. After a moment, I felt Barktholomew kneeling down next to me. He gently started to pet my head, until I finally looked towards him. He had a soft but worried smile on his face. What's really going on, Winnie? He reached forward and with a gentle motion wiped the tears from my cheeks. If dinner doesn't work out, what are you afraid is going to happen? Why are you so frightened of not impressing this Mozzie girl? I don't know, dear. Maybe it's more than that. If we don't make everything perfect, I'm afraid that Baella won't want to come back home anymore. And I don't know if I can bear that. She's only been gone a couple months, but I miss seeing her so much. And, well, when I left home, it was like my relationship with my parents ended. We still talked, but it was different. And now I don't know how to stop the same thing from happening to her, to us. It was so scary being a dad at first, and we figured it out bit by bit. But I don't know what I'm supposed to be now that she doesn't need me anymore. I know what you mean, babe. I do. Barktholomew held me. He buried my face in his chest, and I felt my tears falling bit by bit into his tank top. After a long silence, he started to speak again, and I could feel a change in his voice. It was more careful. He didn't want to say this wrong. Growing up without a mom or dad was rough. Gonna be pushing 45 soon enough, but I still think about that, sometimes. My uncle was a good man, but he didn't know how to raise a kid. Not really. So, when you and I got married, I thought that was going to be the best day of my life. I couldn't imagine anything else making me as happy as being with you. But then, we adopted Baella and it was like something changed. You made me so happy, honey. But she made us a family. She made me whole. She made us whole. Like we were always meant to be. So, no matter who Baella decides to be, or who she's with, we'll still be her family. And we'll always love her. That is never gonna change. Oh my god, Barky. You're going to make me cry again. We stayed on the floor for a whole minute, embracing and emotionally drained. But somehow, I felt a lot better now. Barky himself had been getting teary-eyed during his talk, but it made me so happy to know that he felt willing to share all that with me too. And who's to say this dinner is even ruined? We can still turn this around. Just a few minutes and I'll think of something. I promise. Ding dong! Oh no, they're here! Hide the pie! On it! We scrambled up from the floor, making sure the windows were all open and fans blowing to get as much smoky smell out of the apartment as possible. With a sigh and a squeeze shared between us, we smiled and opened the door. Dads! Baella, we've missed you, sweetie. Come on in. We're so glad you made it home all safe. From the front porch and into the kitchen, our daughter was hopping from foot to foot in her favorite bomber jacket. What drew my eye, however, was the arm held by her guest. The young witch that would be dining with us was, well, shy as anyone I'd ever met. Let's take a look at Mothigan. Or Mozzie. She was wearing classical witching clothes, but they seemed to be genuinely hand-woven from wool, rather than purchased from a designer. A few cute flowers also softened the entire look. Hastily hidden behind her was a small picnic basket, but she seemed to become flustered when I stared at it. But my attention and Barky's was quickly drawn back to our daughter. Aw, family hug. She ran forward and gave us both a big hug, squeezing as tight as she could as the door closed out and we all meandered towards the dinner table in the kitchen. Oh my god, it's so good to see you both! Hello? Duh, totally forgot to introduce my super cute, super soft, super amazing new girlfriend, Mozzie. Pow pow bam! Check her out! She's got it all, smarts and looks. Right, you guys? Nice to meet you both. Bella tells me all about you too, so it's wonderful to see her parents in person. Oh, of course. It's a delight to have you here with us, Mozzie. I hope you enjoy your stay. In the meantime, Barky, we should probably get the dinner going right away. Yeah, you're right. The four of us gathered around the small table in our kitchen, with Bella eagerly setting it with plates and utensils as quick as she could. Mothigan herself seemed to be hesitant, but Barky helped put her at ease, inviting her to sit between him and Bella with a glass of cider. Conversation was well underway when I started to bring the dishes out. And, yeah, I'm currently studying applied witchery, which, of course, requires a culinary course. It seemed interesting, so I went with Nutrition 101, which was mostly made up of sports people. And, of course, Bella was studying sports science, so sort of by coincidence, we became friends. More than friends, girl. We became besties like right away, Dad. Studying, hanging out in the quad, the whole deal. We were basically inseparable, which is why I knew we'd be a great fit once I asked her out. I'm pretty sure I was the one who asked you out, cutie. Well, maybe you did, but I was totally going to invite you to coffee the next day, or week, or maybe the next month. Ha! Well, I'm glad your time together has been so wonderful, regardless of how it took shape. That said, do you like your classes so far, Mozzie? Bella has told us all about her time in sports science, and it's clear she's found a passion there. Yeah, witching is fine, I guess. My family has been asking me to pursue it for a long time, so I don't want to let them down, you know? Ahem! With my stool brought over to the table and all the dishes assembled, I climbed up, and with a couple hops, was able to swing myself up to the ceiling. It was a bit of extra effort, but eating was always much more pleasant upside down, at least in my experience. Plus, that blood wine was still making me feel dizzy while standing upright. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got some vegan traditional Hallows Eve dishes ready to be served. I hope you all enjoy them. So cute that Winnie is up there. Come on, let's eat already. I'm starving. Oh yeah. I only had airport food today. I need some vegan goodness. Yay! Happy Halloween, everyone. Quite so. Now, our appetizer this evening is a classic. Eyeballs, with a tofu twist, of course. Dig in. The mix of tofu and olives, plated together with some ginger to keep it all meshed, were spooned out onto various plates. Barky was the first to take a bite, and I noticed his smile turned a bit pained as he bit in. I braced myself as well, and chomped down on the appetizer in one. At first, it didn't taste too bad, a bit bitter, perhaps, but not unusually so for such a small dish. But with every chew, I felt my jaw slowing down, my body openly rejecting the meal itself. Truthfully, it wasn't a bit bitter, it was only bitter. The black olives were a mistake to pair with peppers, and the tofu was just absorbing all the bite the ginger had too. It was almost untenable, and I had to gulp hefty glasses of cider to work it down. With trepidation, my eyes turned over to Bella. While Barktholomew and I were taking our time with each piece, she had already cleaned her plate and was ladling more onto it. Her fiery jaw was chomping them down like no tomorrow, apparently ravenous. The airport cuisine had potentially been a blessing in disguise. Mothigan, on the other hand, seemed to be eating very delicately. She had only taken the one eyeball onto her dish, and was cutting it extremely small before eating each slice with her knife and fork. Her expression was pleasant, but I couldn't be certain if that was just politeness. Winnie? Babe? You okay? Ugh. Huh? What was that? The, rest of the food can probably come out next, right? We don't want to just serve the eyeballs without the main course. He leaned forward and whispered in a hushed, brisk tone. And I could really use a palate cleanser. Oh, right, yes. Next up, brains. A heated cauliflower and tomato mix for a gory delight. Please have a taste, and feel free to share your thoughts. The cauliflower looked a good deal better than the eyeballs, all told. The brain effect was somewhat lost, as the red sauce hadn't quite filled out each ridge as well as I'd hoped. That said, Barky seemed much happier with this than the prior dish. I lifted it to my mouth. The texture was wrong, right off the bat. I'd had brains a few times when I was a child at some fancy events, and this didn't taste anything like that. But still, it was not unpleasant. The tomato and cauliflower was coming together pretty well, all told. But then again, it definitely wasn't what you'd expect from a main course. A bake may have been a better choice after all. As it was, this was just sauce and veggies heated up. Still, the girls were tucking into it a good deal, despite my misgivings. The dinner had been a failure in being any kind of high-end culinary gourmet, but at the very least, they both seemed to be enjoying their time with it. A smile came to my face as they finished their plates, apparently satisfied with the meal. Whew! Okay, that was lovely. Thanks for making so much of it, Dads. The campus food is fine, but they never know how to capture that classic home cooking flavor. Not enough love in each dish, you know what I mean? Ha! Yes, it was very nice. The flavor profiles were unusual, but I think the bitter and the savory balanced out with all the tofu and cauliflower in the end. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, this was a lovely dinner. Phew! Well, I'm glad to hear it. It really was just something we threw together. Not a big deal, right, dear? Heh, right. No big deal. Wait, but dinner isn't over yet. Mozzie, sweetie, didn't you want to have them try out your dish? The moth witch, seemingly so hasty to get up from the table, immediately froze. All her fur started to stand on end, fluffing up across her body. With a blush and a squeak, her wings unfolded, and she dove under the table. Barky and I looked at each other in surprise. Oh, no, sweetie. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to pressure you. It's just you were so excited on the way over. You said you really wanted to share your food with my folks. No, but I didn't want to screw up your dinner. This is your family, and my stupid dessert shouldn't get in the way of you guys having a good time. Barktholomew turned to me with a sad wry smile on his muzzle. I nodded and climbed down onto the floor, leaning down under the table to talk to Mozzie. Despite everything, I felt confident in this. Mozzie, when our daughter said you were coming, I'll admit we also got a bit nervous. We didn't know how you'd react to our little meal here, but it made me so happy to know Baella had someone special in her life she wanted to share with us. No matter what happens, as long as you are at this table, you're family, okay? Quite so. If you have something you want to share with us, we're more than happy to indulge. Mozzie closed her wings and slowly came out from under the table. She busied herself for a moment before bringing out the basket she'd been holding after coming in. Her face was still filled with a heavy blush, but she seemed to be brimming with a fascinating excitement. Oh, so, enchanted, or haunted. With a flourish, she removed the blanketed covering, revealing a ghoulish face beneath, set deep into a pie dish. With just a whiff, I could tell it was going to be an absolutely stunning dessert, as brown sugar and baked fruit filled my nostrils. This is a take on an old recipe my grandmother taught me. Face pie, with cherries and blackberries as the filling. No eggs or milk, of course. I wanted to make sure it kept with Bella's diet. Aw, this looks so good, Mozzie. Thank you, dear. I haven't really had anyone to try it yet, though. My family doesn't really care about home cooking. In fact, they've kind of been pushing me to go into witching instead of pursuing culinary school. But it might not be very good, so you don't need to force yourselves to eat it. Barktholomew smiled at me, and I nodded. Our little disaster from earlier just might come in handy after all. Actually, Mozzie, this pie looks like just the thing we need. We were going to make a dessert too, but, well, you can see how our pumpkin pie turned out. Burned black as a cauldron. Ha! Oh my, I thought it smelled a bit smoky in here, but didn't want to say anything. Wait, we have 2 pies? And you didn't tell me? Well, yes, but it's basically not... Crunch, 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 crunch. Before we could even stop her, Baella had pulled 2 slices out of each pie and was biting down on each of them bit by bit. The burned-out pumpkin pie seemed to catch even further fire as it entered her hellhound maw, while Mozzie's fruity pie seemed to just brown a bit. Despite that, however, she seemed to be enjoying them both equally. She'd never been a picky eater, but after spending enough time away from home, it had somehow slipped my mind how often we had to stop her from eating charred toast or burned veggie bits. This is so good, Mozzie, and I can't believe you didn't let me have some of this, Dads. You know how much I love my food extra well done. We do, but we try not to serve it that way to guests. I suppose it did slip our minds that you had a preference for the more smoldered side of things. Haha, indeed. Oh, you don't need to try eating ours, Mozzie. It really isn't edible for anyone that doesn't have a furnace going inside their guts. Well, if you insist, but Baella makes it look so good. We gathered around the table and each enjoyed the pie that Mothigan had prepared, hugging one another and joking the whole while. It was delicious, as expected, but the nostalgia and warmth that the table seemed to hold with all of us here was more filling than I had ever anticipated. Years ago, we had adopted Baella. Barktholomew said that made us whole, but at least tonight, I could feel that wholeness gaining a new depth. Our family was all here tonight, this Halloween evening, and as we shoveled slice after slice of pie into our mouths, we found family in one another. Writing and programming by TinySamm, art by Haiti. Thank you for playing. That was so nice. You know, it felt like a Christmas special in Halloween, so a Halloween special. And, you know, it's so heartwarming to see a same-sex family come together and, you know, dealing with their child growing up, moving away from home, and then seeing them again. It's also heartwarming and tugging at the heartstrings. So if you guys like that, I hope you could leave me a like on this video and maybe subscribe if you haven't yet. And I want you guys to take some time to appreciate something in your life today, like your family, as shown in this short but sweet and not really that scary visual novel. And I'll see you on the next Let's Read. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!